feel like it's time to dance almost. Like, so approaching the end of the year, coast to coast, it is stretch run. We have 3 teams that have clinched conference titles already. Can you believe it, Sweeney?
It's crazy, man. I mean, there's conference tournaments a week from now. Like,
going down.
It's crazy. It is wild. As soon as you hit New Year's, like, it just rips through. Because you're like, all right, early conference play, grind. Okay, February. And February is such a short month. It's like, it's bittersweet. It really is bittersweet.
It is bittersweet. We got a lot to get to, so we're going to get straight to the Sweeney 7, starting with the big upset. Florida, the Gators. Let's go. If you're not Gator, you're Gator bait. Let's talk about it.
Man, what a huge win. You know, kind of completely out of nowhere, too, right? Like, sometimes there are upsets, and B, I'm sure you could attest to this. Like, there are teams that are playing much better than their record, and you're like, okay, they're starting to click. You know, they're going to pick someone off. That really wasn't the case with Florida. Like, Florida was on a downswing. They had just lost to Texas A&M earlier in the week. They had gotten blown out by Kentucky. Before that, they had 3 straight really close games against Mizzou, Ole Miss, and Georgia, the 3 worst teams in the SEC. Like, this thing kind of felt like a sinking ship. And they turn around. They're down in the second half by 8 points or 9 points, in the second half, and just rallied and found a way. Castleton was tremendous. Tyree Appleby, their point guard, really stepped up scoring the basketball. That's been, I think an area they've struggled all year long is finding consistent scoring from their backcourt. And Appleby had 26 in this game. Jabari Smith went crazy for Auburn, but the rest of the guys were held in check. And Florida, after conceding that lead all the way down to 1 possession into closing seconds, they get the timely stop. They stop Wendell Green and get a huge, huge win that really changes the complexion of their season. Gives them an opportunity to get to the NCAA tournament. They're right on the bubble now. They were right on the fringes before. Now they're really right near the cut line, and they've got some opportunities here. Home games against Arkansas and Kentucky in the next 2 weeks. And look, those are challenging games, but if you could pull one of them, it could really again change their complexion of where things are. So. Kudos to Mike White. Kudos to this, veteran group with, seniors everywhere that was kind of fighting for their lives and got a season-changing win.
Season-changing win. Like you said, they have some opportunities left. Excuse me. Will be exciting to see what they do. A home game against Kentucky to end the year, which would be fun, too.
Yeah. The Swamp will be rocking, baby.
It will be rocking. All right. Let's go to Wake Forest. A little ACC talk. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it seems like they're getting closer and closer by the day to an NCAA tournament bid. They very nearly won at Cameron Indoor on Tuesday. That game was ridiculous. Wake Forest was down 15 early in the second half, battled all the way back. I think they tied the game at one point, and then had a 3. They did tie the game because Duke then went down and got a putback dunk with less than a second to go. That was right on the borderline of being goal 10. Really close. And, the call doesn't get made in their favor. Then Wake nearly hits a 3/4 quarter to win. It rattled off the rim, which was crazy. But even without it, they turn around. They beat Notre Dame this past weekend. It's huge. I mean, it's just, Wake Forest is now really close. They've got 3 games coming up in the next week and a half that they absolutely should win. At Clemson, home Louisville, home NC State. They win those 3 games, they're going to the NCAA tournament. No ifs, ands, or buts. No question. And to do that in year 2 under Steve Forbes, considering he inherited it late in the cycle, like in May, during the pandemic, in a rebuild from Danny Manning, went 6-16 last year. I mean, this is one of the great stories in college basketball this season with, 2 transfers who, the average college basketball fan would have no idea who they were coming into the season. Alondes Williams, who was a glue guy at Oklahoma, and Jake LaRavia, who was playing at Indiana State last year. With those 2 guys, and Kadeem C., who has stepped up in a huge way. He was awesome against Notre Dame. He had 15 points, 10 rebounds. Again, he is a guy who's well-traveled, been at 3 different schools, kind of never really found his fit and has found it at Wake. Like, they have just done a great job of finding guys who are undervalued and finding ways to win with them. And, beating Notre Dame, who is tied atop the ACC coming into that game, is the latest step towards going to the NCAA tournament. So I just feel like not enough has been said. And plenty has been, but nothing will be enough to, summarize just how good a job that Steve Forbes has done so far with the Demon Deacons in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, not what I would say is an easy job in that league. Probably one of the lower rated jobs in the league. This is not your Tim Duncan era Demon Deacons, so to speak. But yeah, it's a marvelous job. This is not the first time he's done it. Obviously done a great job at East Tennessee State. Northwest Florida, he killed it when he was a JUCO head coach. Not surprised, JUCO dudes kind of find a way, and he has the it factor. He always has. He's been able to get players. He knows how to coach, and he knows how to figure out how to win. So credit to them. We'll move to the next one. Big Ten. You like a little Big Ten. This is Sweeney's territory. Big Ten. Obviously a monster dunk by our former player of the week last week, high major player of the week, Mr. Murray. And talk about Iowa. What's going down?
Yeah, I mean, I think in college, like this time of year, it's so important to prove how you can bounce back, right? And quite frankly, Iowa played really poorly against Michigan earlier in the week. They lost a game on their home court that they probably should have won on paper. They guarded really poorly. Michigan shot like 65% from the field. They were just outstanding. And Iowa put up no fight defensively. So for the Hawkeyes to come back after hearing the noise, after, still being without a quadrant one win, go on the road to Ohio State with a National Player of the Year candidate, E.J. Liddell, one of the best freshmen in the country, Malachi Branham, and really control that game, particularly in the second half, that was really impressive. Keegan Murray did his thing, but guys stepped up off the bench. I mean, they got a nice lift from Aaron Eulis. They got a really nice lift from Chris Murray, Keegan's twin brother. I'm always partial to twins, so shout out to Chris Murray. They're just balanced. They make shots.
You're partial to twins again? Why is that?
So I am a twin, of course.
Exactly. They don't know that. So shout out to your twin, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Iowa. Shout out to your twin. Senior day, you got to be there for it. We'll do a quick 30-second timeout. You got to give a shout out to your brother.
Yeah, shout out to my brother. He's the head manager for the Siena women's basketball team, wrapping up his storied career there.
Yes.
What the water bottles will never be the same in upstate New York without him. So
that might be the funniest thing I've ever heard you say.
But no, happy for him, and it was good to see him this weekend. And yes, as I said, very partial to twins because of it.
So Iowa, twin,
yes,
stepped in, made some big plays. Anything else left on Iowa?
No, I mean, a huge win. I mean, I think it almost locks them into the NCAA tournament. I mean, their metrics are great. The only thing they were held back, they didn't have a quadrant one win. Now they do. So unless they do something like lose out, they will go to the NCAA tournament. They have a big week ahead. Home Michigan State, at Nebraska, home Northwestern in the next 7 days. So proving time. And then road games at Michigan and Illinois to close the year. So these final 5 games will say a lot. Finish strong, and they could be a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. Don't finish well, and you wind up 10 or 11.
All right. Speaking of finishing well, Vermont, South Dakota State, Cleveland State clinch conference championships. It is that time of year. They've had that much of a lead. They can clinch a little bit early. Talk about these 3 programs.
Yeah, just awesome for these 3. I mean, 3 outstanding coaches. One guy who's been there seemingly forever, and John Becker. And all John Becker does is win 20 games. I mean, literally that guy, I think you could give him Burlington High School and he would go win 20 games with them in the American East. But I think in the preseason, a lot of people were on Stony Brook. I won't duck from it. I thought Stony Brook was going to win the league. Vermont's 14-1. No team has fewer than 7 losses in the league other than that. So they've dominated it, and John Becker deserves a lot of credit because again, they have a good roster. They have a kid in Ryan Davis who's really good up front, Ben Shungu in the backcourt, but this isn't one of the most talented teams that he's had. When you go 22-5, 14-1 in the league, your first thought is not, your first thought with almost any other program would be, wow, this is, breakthrough year. This is just any other year for Vermont, and they've done a great job with it. South Dakota State is a perennial power in the Summit League. But they are still unbeaten in their conference, which is incredibly impressive at this point in the season. Again, so much hype. Oral Roberts, Max Asmus, Oral Roberts. Well, here South Dakota State is with 25 wins on the season. They just are so explosive offensively. Eric Henderson does a great job. I mean, they have 5 losses. 4 of them are against, or excuse me, they have 4 losses. 3 of them are against Alabama, Washington, and Missouri State, who are all top 75 teams. And then they lost 1 to Idaho early in the season. But the Jackrabbits are really, really dangerous. Eric Henderson does a tremendous job. And, again, 25 wins in the season does not happen for many teams. They're one of just 2 teams with 25 wins or more right now. Murray State, the other. So some love needed for South Dakota State. And then Cleveland State, obviously, Dennis Gates, the job he's done there is certainly well documented. But to win the league 2 years in a row after taking over in a tough spot, and year 1 it being a full rebuild, and to now be on track to win 20 games this season and potentially get back to the NCAA tournament is quite the endorsement for the job that Dennis has done there at Cleveland State.
Yeah, 3 big-time teams. Curious. I think I know the answer, but I feel like I got to ESPN Joe Lenardi this thing a little bit and ask the question, will any of these teams be able to get in if they don't win their tournament?
I don't think so, unfortunately. South Dakota State does have a really good win over Washington State. That's a quadrant 1. Vermont and Cleveland State kind of lacking resume. Cleveland State's net is in the 150s, so that's not going to do it. Vermont and South Dakota State are in the top 70. So,
right.
They're maybe in the next 4 out if they can't win their conference tournament, but in all likelihood, they're going to need to win 3 games in 3 days or whatever it is in their respective leagues. So that's March, baby. We have 25 wins off the regular season.
I know. I think most of these leagues are now to the point where they're rewarding their top teams with multiple buys. So I don't know the ins and outs of both of these leagues, but hopefully that is the case where they win 1 game, they go to championships. So takes the game out of their the wear and tear on their bodies. Speaking of another great team winning season, Appalachian State, your guy Dustin Kearns, third straight winning season for the first time since 97-00, and I believe that was him who did that as well.
They've just, just so impressive. Yeah, it was Buzz Peterson back then that put those 3 seasons together. Dustin Kearns is a program builder, right? Like you think about, the guys that have gotten so much credit this year, like a Jeff Linder, a Nico Medved, these guys who have done unbelievable jobs building at-large caliber teams in the Mountain West. Like that's not attainable everywhere, right? And, if you're looking for the next Jeff Linder type name, the next Nico Medved type name, I think it should be Dustin Kearns. Dustin Kearns won 20 games in his second season at Presbyterian. Winning 20 games at Presbyterian is like going to the Sweet 16 at, a good program. No offense to Presbyterian, but the resources there you're just not set up to win 20, and he won 20. Appalachian State, it's been 20 years since they go 3 straight winning seasons. He does it in his first 3 seasons. There he goes to the NCAA tournament year 2. They're the second best team in the league this year. Have a real shot to go back to back and get back to the big dance. So, if you're looking for that name of like the guys who are program builders, to me, it's Dustin Kearns, and they've done a tremendous job. I think they deserve a tremendous amount of credit, and certainly, I think when I like any Mike Young guy, right? You think of any Mike Young guy as like your old fashioned ball coach, and Dustin's certainly that kind of guy. But I think he's been able to do it his own way and build it with. They grind you out of tremendous guards and have put together a team that really can be dangerous in the Sun Belt tournament. So a lot of buzz about a lot of teams in that league, but I thought absolutely Appalachian State deserved a little love today.
Yeah, no doubt. Got to give them their love. I'll throw 2 quick teams out from that league. Troy under Scott Cross, who is another program builder, did an unbelievable job at his alma mater at UTA and is now doing it at Troy, which is another extremely difficult job within that league. So got to give shout outs to them, who actually did get a win over Appalachian State at one point. So we got to give them a little credit. I think they're all right, kind of in that second place jumble mix. And then Texas State, Terrence Johnson, Obviously, I was extremely biased, still am. Last year, he was under interim. They didn't give him the job till way after the season. But now he has the job, and he still has him in first place. So got to give them their shout out as well. So speaking of Texas, we're keeping it Texas, keeping it with some people that I know and love and am biased to, but they get it done. So got to give them credit. Tyler Perry, North Texas, another game winner for Tyler Perry. North Texas, another win to exceed. I think they're at 12 now in a row, 12 wins in a row. Correct me if I'm wrong. It may be 11, but I think it's 12 to push to
if it isn't 12, it will be soon. I mean, that's just who he is. It is 12 in a row.
Yeah, so I get some things right every now and then. I'm not as good as Kevin, but that's why I have the small screen. He has the big screen. Come on, we know what we're doing here. But Tyler Perry, UNT, let's talk about this team. And they have more than just him. They have a good team. That's why they're winning the way they are. But he has been Mr. Clutch, so we got to talk about him too.
Yeah, he comes off the bench. I mean, again, what a statement about the culture there that your leading scorer, your guy that they look to for game-winning shots, comes off the bench, right? I mean, he gets his starters minutes. He's on the floor when it matters, but he's not worried about starting games, right? And I think that's kind of speaks to the program that they've built there. They're really good. Perry goes for 25 to beat UAB on the road, including the game-winning shot with a little under 3 seconds to go. But they have just, they're so balanced. They have shooting at every spot. The big man, Usman, has been really solid for them and brought in a different look. This is a team, man. No one wants to see North Texas in March. North Texas started 2-3 this season. Since then, they are 18-1. You don't do that by accident.
I'd be interested to go back, and this is something I will commit to doing. But if you look at the last 3 years, what they've done since they've been there, they won the regular season the year that the COVID, they didn't get to go to the tournament, won a regular season. The next year, they don't win the regular season, but they win the tournament, and they beat Purdue in the tournament. So they make a run, beat a Big Ten team, and advance in March. And then this year, I mean, minus that first 5 games kind of filling themselves out, they just have been rolling at a ridiculous clip. And
they've won 20 games every season except last year, and they won an NCAA tournament game last year.
So yeah, an incredible run. Got to give credit to these guys. More JUCO guys that have built programs. Talk about another program builder. I mean, did it at Arkansas State for 1 year, 20 wins, get out. North Texas was definitely not a great place when it was inherited, and done a tremendous job. And I love the part about it too. Like guys on their roster, JJ Murray is a former Division III JUCO All-American walk-on. I know because I recruited him and they got him. I didn't. That's why they're winning. They're better at this than I am, and that's why I'm over here. No, I'm kidding. But JJ is a great story, starter who's been instrumental for them as a 3-and-D kind of defender. McBride is another guy who can really score. Thomas Bell's a JUCO player that's really good. Reuben Jones from Houston. Aaron Scott, another guy from Houston, one of the best freshmen in the league. So got to give those guys credit. I love this team, love what they're about. And this team, as crazy as it sounds, might be the best team they've had since they've been there because their defense is so good, and they do have the ability to be able to score and do things in different ways. So be interesting to see. Obviously, there's a huge bar there of what they've done, but they're on their way to a championship. And like you said, nobody wants to see them in March.
The door's open for an at-large too. At least, I don't know that they get there, but the door is at least open now that they have the road win at UAB. Completely changed their resume.
Yeah, talk about that real quick. I'm gonna load up this last one. What does that look like? I know we got one more for the Sweeney 7, but what does that look like for a team? Because I think that's a common question. These teams that are winning conference championships, can they get an at-large?
Right. So, obviously the biggest things you're looking at are quadrant 1 wins and quadrant 1 wins, bad losses, and metrics, right? So with North Texas right now, as of this speaking, and these numbers change daily, but they're top 40 in the net, they're top 40 in KenPom, they're 1-1 against quadrant 1, they're 5-2 against quadrant 2. They have one loss outside of the top 2 quadrants. So one bad loss. It's a quadrant 3 game. That was to Buffalo at home the first week of the season. So the thing you're really missing is a true kind of needle moving win, right? Like, so they have the one quadrant one win is at UAB. Is that going to be the type of thing that can carry a resume? I don't know. I think that's probably why they would come up short. But, you know, if you're sitting there, if they can win out in the regular season and be, 20, 20, maybe 24-4 heading into the conference tournament, and then lost to a good team, took a quadrant 2 loss in the conference tournament, to me, you'd be right near the cut line at 27-5, especially when 2 of your losses are Kansas and Miami. So I think they're certainly in the conversation. Is it enough? I don't know, but it gets you in that right near the cut line mix.
For sure. Yep, absolutely. Another team that we've talked about quite a bit on this show, out in the A10, which is VCU, playing some elite basketball since Ace Baldwin's return. Feels like they should be in that large team. Talk about this team and their tournament potential.
Yeah, they're getting close. I did kind of a bracket scrub this weekend because it's important that you don't just kind of say, oh, well, they lost, they move up, they win, you're lost, they move down, they win, they move up. You kind of have to reset everything every so often. And I was surprised how close VCU was to my cut line. I'd kind of forgotten about them, but they moved the needle again this week. They blew out Richmond by 20. They've lost only 3 times since they got Ace Baldwin back, their starting point guard. And those 3 games have been home Davidson, home Dayton, 2 top 60 teams of the country, and then road St. Bonaventure, who's really, really solid too. None of those are bad losses. So, they're also helped by the fact that Wagner and Chattanooga, who they lost to earlier in the season, have been better than expected. They don't have a great, win in their non-conference bag. They have a road Vandy win, which is okay. They have a neutral court win over Syracuse that's decent. Is that enough? We'll see. But they've opened themselves up to have that opportunity, and especially if they could win out, and the schedule is manageable to do that. Really, the only true they have St. Bonaventure and they have at St. Louis to close the year. Those are 2 tough ones, but if they can win those, they're gonna have a real shot to get an at-large bid, regardless of what happens in the A10 tournament in Washington D.C. So Mike Rhodes deserves a lot of credit. They have their issues offensively, but man, do they guard you?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Speaking of some of the best teams in the country that deserve more recognition, we're going to go to our awards. Start with our high major team of the week. You just mentioned defense. It only made sense to transition to this team. I don't know all the metrics on this one. I'm sure you can break it down for me, but I don't know if there's anyone better defensively or as versatile defensively as this team, known for their defense with their last head coach, led by their current head coach. Now he is the head coach. Talk about the Red Raiders.
They're up to second in adjusted defensive efficiency per Ken Palm. The only team better on that end of the floor is San Diego State. So pretty good company for Mark Adams and company. But what a huge week. Win against Baylor at home. Look, they've been so good on their home court all season long. Baylor coming off the Chamba Chachua loss. Maybe you saw that coming, but to then turn around and win at Texas, I mean, what a massive, massive week. And they did that without Kevin McCullough. And without Terrence Shannon making a field goal. Like, if you told me in the preseason Texas Tech could win at the Irwin Center without a field goal from either Terrence Shannon or Kevin McCullough, I would have said you're crazy. But this balance is so special for them. And, Bryson Williams keeps stepping up, right? He had 17 in both of these games this past week. He's shooting 45% from 3. He's rebounding the basketball. He's been a great offensive weapon for them.
Over 50% from the field. I think he's over 50% from the field for his career. An unbelievable score, Bryson Williams. Keep going. Sorry.
He's been awesome. They're just balanced, man. Like, Williams steps up. Adonis Arm steps up. Kevin O'Banner was really the guy against Baylor. He had 23 points and 13 rebounds, the best game of his Texas Tech career. They're just, someone else beats you every night. I mean, look, against Texas, Clarence Nadolny comes off the bench and gives him 14. Right. I mean, he's a defensive stopper. That's what he's known for. He comes in and gives you 14 points off the bench. So that's what makes him dangerous, that anyone can beat you on an even night, and they deserve a lot of credit for where they're at right now.
Yeah, I absolutely love every part of what's happening here, because this is the part of college basketball that so many times doesn't happen, where people think they have to go get a quote-unquote name when the name leaves, right? Chris Beard goes and takes another job. He takes Texas, his alma mater. Great job. Cool for him. Obviously excited for him. But most of the time, then they feel like they have to go hire a name. It's like the dude that you need is already right there. And I love the fact that Texas Tech made this decision. They made it quickly. They made it decisively. And, I mean, it couldn't have been a better fit. He's a West Texas guy. Anybody who knows Mark Adams, West Texas JUCO guy, won a national championship at Howard Junior College. I coached in Texas JUCO, got to coach against him. And his defense has been a menace for a long time, even at that level. But nobody knew how good it could be at the Division I level. He works with Beard. They have this run. He's the master of the defense. Then he gets the job, and he's just proven he can be a head coach. And I just think it goes to whoever may see this, probably no ADs, probably no search firms, but more people should be able to get those type of jobs, right? When you've helped do the things that you do to help the guy get the next job, give the assistant or the associate head coach a chance. You know what I mean? Those guys know what it took. They were a big part of it. So I love that. And then obviously I'm biased because they're from Texas, and then Bryson Williams. I love this dude. I always felt like he had a chance to be an NBA level player and was good as anybody in the country when we were at Fresno. Then we went to UTEP with him. And he's just proven now at the highest level that he's a dude. You know, he's a dude amongst dudes. All right, speaking of dudes, high major player of the week. We're going out to the Big East. Let's go East Coast on them. What you got?
Yeah, St. John's, Julian Champagny. An unbelievable scorer. I mean, this guy is as good as it gets in terms of shooting the basketball. And look, this has been a disappointing season for St. John's. There is no question they expect to be better than they've been. But they have started to really turn a corner. They beat one at Xavier earlier this week, then torched Butler, beat him by 34. He goes for 31 in that game. He had 27 against Xavier. He has just been outstanding lately, and he's given them new life. They're a team that, you know, it would take something really, really special down the stretch to get back in the serious conversation for an at-large bid, but no one is going to want to see them in the conference tournament, particularly considering it's played at Madison Square Garden. You know, they're going to be tough. And when you have Julian Champagny who can score it as well as he does, you're not an easy team to beat. And Mike Anderson teams play hard. They play a very specific style, and I think they're starting to find their rhythm. The question is, can they do enough? You know, they lost 2 games 2 weeks ago at home against Villanova and UConn by a combined 9 points. If they had won one of those, the path to the NCAA tournament would be a little bit clearer. But since they didn't, it's an uphill battle. But Champagny's trying not to let this thing go. He's gonna keep fighting and try to get him in the NCAA tournament.
He's doing everything he can to will him in. Really, really impressive score, high level. Kind of reminds you of I don't know, the guys they say are professional scorers. They used to say that about like Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford in the league. You know, just guys that could just go get a bucket. Mid-major team of the week, back in the top 25. You love to see it. WCC's having a heck of a year. May get multiple teams beyond just the 2. May get more than 2 teams in to the tournament. It looks like they will. Talk about St. Mary's.
Yeah, huge week. You'll beat the other 2 best teams in the conference in San Francisco and BYU on a Thursday and Saturday. Won both games by the same exact score, which is quite unique, 69-64 in both cases. So in case you're interested in fun facts, there you have one for the day. But no, I mean, they're just tough, man. They're so well coached. Tommy Kuhse, a point guard, is just so steady. He's added to his game every year. Like Tommy Kuhse was a walk-on at St. Mary's and built his way up from walk-on to rotation player to starter to one of the better point guards in mid-major basketball. And this year he's added the 3-point shot. You know, last year he shot 28% from 3, made 19 of them. This year he's made 38 at a 46% clip. I mean, he has changed his game. He has made their offense so much more dangerous. And the big kid in the middle, Matthias Toss, deserves a lot of credit because he did a great job defensively against San Francisco. San Francisco is one of the better mid-major bigs in the country, and Johan Masalski. And they completely locked down Masalski in that game because of Toss, who's just so physically imposing. Masalski only had 10 points in that game. He's just been so good all season long. Turned it over 4 times in that game, which was, I believe, a season high. So, man, like, St. Mary's is really good. They're just so disciplined. It's so well coached. I saw him in Vegas, and he said, look, these guys are so comfortable in what they do, and
Right.
it is just as obvious today as it was then that they've got a special group. So
almost won it in Vegas. Went to the championship game, right?
they did. And they were winning in the second half.
Yep.
I believe might have been by 10. Yeah, they led 37-27 with 15:58 to go in that game. And Lauren Bowman came off the bench for Wisconsin, scored 5 quick ones, kind of changed the energy.
Yep.
But they nearly took down a Wisconsin team that might win the Big Ten. So they're very, very good.
And have a game against Gonzaga wasn't as competitive as they may have liked, but they do end the year playing Gonzaga, so that'll be a good game to tune into. No true tournament implications for this team. They should be a lock to get in, but it will be good must-see TV, and they may be able to improve their seeding. Mid-major player of the week. You know, we always like to give love to the mid-majors. What do you think on this one? There's a lot of people that could have been, but we only went with one.
Yeah, headed out to the Ivy League to shout out the guy from England, Tosan of Bowman. Sean Paul has been banging the drum that this kid is special, and finally checked him out this weekend. They played against Yale. He took them on the road to the best team in the league, Yale, or the top team in the standings in the league, Yale, coming into the game. He put up 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. He's this unique 6'8" kid who can really pass. He can play with the ball. He can attack off the bounce. Like, he's a really, really interesting, unique player. I mean, you don't find many teams that run their offense through a guy who's 6'7", 6'8", but they do, and he has been tremendous for them and just carried them to a huge win over Yale that changes up the Ivy League race. And again, the Ivy League does have the conference tournament now, so there's a little bit of pad, but it's only the top 4 teams, and Princeton and Yale have been duking it out for that number 1 seed, which also gets you that NIT berth, which is a huge deal again at any mid-major school to get to an N tournament. And Princeton gets that huge win to go out in front in the conference with 3 games to play.
Yeah, and the Ivies, if we remember, they didn't even play last season. I mean, just to be able to get back out there and play again, what a significant difference that makes.
And with Bowman in mind, I mean, think about it this way. So he is a junior in school. So he played as a freshman and then sat out all of last season. As a freshman, he averaged 4 points a game, 4 points and 2 rebounds a game.
Right.
And then he has a year off. He was a start. He was in and out of the starting rotation. He was solid as a freshman. He's a year off. Now he's averaging 15, 6, and 5. Like he took the time and worked on his game and got a lot better, and has now become one of the best players in mid-major basketball.
Yeah, I saw a buddy of mine say this the other day, the plandemic. He took the pandemic and made it a plandemic and developed. You like that one. You like that one. You like that one. It's not mine. I stole it. All right, HBCU going player of the week. We'll go team last. You're going to PV. Historically and recently, one of the powers in the HBCU, especially in the SWAC, Byron B. Smith does a tremendous job there. Not having quite the team success as they've had in the past, but we honored this player this week for HBCU Player of the Week.
Yeah, Jeremiah Gambrell, their scoring guard, had a big game. He had 31 points, 4 assists, and a win over Pine Bluff on the road after putting up 17 and a win over Grambling earlier in the week. So 2 wins, 2 big wins. And look, yeah, like they started 0-11, partially because of scheduling, right? I mean, I read about with Coppin State, but listen to their non-conference schedule. They played at St. Mary's, at San Francisco, Neutral Court, Michigan, at Oklahoma State, at Texas Tech, at Grand Canyon, at Loyola Marymount, at South Dakota State, at Boise State, at Wichita State. 0-10. Right now they're 7-5 in the league, right? Like, so you look at and say, oh, they're 7-15. But in reality, I mean, they're as good as you can realistically expect them to be. And they may not win this conference, but they're going to be in the mix. They're 1 game out in the loss column from the leaders in that conference. And so I don't think anyone should be surprised if Byron Smith Club winds up winning the conference tournament once again, goes back to NCAAs.
Yep, so glad you said it. I led that way for a reason because I kind of feel this league is super wide open. Southern's played some really good basketball. TSU, we've acknowledged as a team of the week. But, man, it's something about what when it comes March, certain teams you just know you always have to keep an eye on no matter what their regular season is, and they are one of them. Speaking of teams in HBCU level, got to give special shout out to them. Tony Matlock played in our Rising Coaches Classic. Longtime friend. I got to follow him. I used to tell him all the time, because you're great at your job, I have a job now, meaning he was at Lamar. He left Lamar. Then I got to get hired because he went to Ole Miss at the time. But great dude. Love to see him back in the saddle as a head coach. He was an interim head coach at Ole Miss. Some of you may remember that. Did a terrific job during that time. And, yeah, I knew it then early in the year when they played in November in our Rising Coaches Classic that they would be good. And his son's one of their best players, and they're playing some good ball.
Yeah, 1-17 last season. Tony comes in. They've won 14 games this year. 14-12 on the season.
Winning record in the SWAC, in the HBCU ranks, was usually doesn't allow it to happen because you play so many guarantee games, so many money games to raise money. You don't have a chance to play like opponents. So that's a huge, significant thing to kind of acknowledge. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and against some good teams. I mean, they have 391s, but they won at South Florida. That's a high major program. They won on a neutral court against High Point, a solid Big South team. They won against Tennessee State, another HBCU out of the OVC. They played at Citadel and beat them. They beat Charleston Southern. Those aren't easy to come by at this level. So to be over 500 is awesome, and it's just the second time they've been over 500 since the 2010 season. So lots of credit there to Coach Matlock, who has turned this thing around quickly. And like you said, when your son's your best player, they should be able to keep him out of the portal, right? I mean, you would think it would be pretty tough if Coach Matlock loses his kid to the portal. So.
Yeah, I think it's a little different to the impermissible benefits. I don't know how those work, but when it's your son, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Can you imagine your son goes in the portal and doesn't even tell you, just goes to the compliance person? He just finds out crap, I think my kid's in the portal.
I don't think that'll happen by any means in this case, but that would be funny. Wrapping up the show, upcoming games. Oh, yeah. So my she's definitely excited.
Crashing the party.
As you can see. You want to come say hi? No? Okay. Figured so. Yes, upcoming events. We have conference tournaments coming very soon. Most conferences have anywhere between 3 and 5 games left in the year. Exciting time. Anything that sticks out, feel free before we close the show.
Wyoming, Colorado State, baby. Get excited. I know you'll be there.
So I can talk about that game really quick. Yeah, 22-4 for Wyoming. I believe 23-4 for CSU. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But both teams are the only teams in the Mountain West that have been ranked in the top 25 this season. Colorado State is they have 4 conference losses. All 4 of their losses have come in conference. They're looking to still compete for a title. And Wyoming's tied for first place with Boise, and they're looking to compete for a title. This is the border war, they call it. It is separated by an hour between northern Colorado and Wyoming. And, man, you talk about, all the storylines you want for compelling television and a matchup. 2 rising stars in the coaching ranks. You have the guard big man combination with Isaiah, Stevens, and Roddy, and Maldonado and Ike. You have these teams that have been ranked in the top 25 that haven't been ranked in years, in some cases decades. So, yeah, it's just an amazing – and they went to overtime last game in Wyoming. There was a little bit of drama, of a missed free throw here, a couple foul outs. Next thing you know, Wyoming's over the court storm. And that was kind of the beginning for Wyoming to make their first big win, signature win, before they followed it and beat Boise. And so they needed to win that game, and Colorado State is kind of in a similar situation now. So coming off a tough loss to UNLV. So it'll be great. It'll be fireworks. Get your popcorn ready. Another one in that league, San Diego State plays at Boise, 2 of the best metric defensive teams in the country. Last time it was a football score, 42-37. It was painful to watch, but both teams' offenses have continued to get better. Both teams' offenses are playing much better now, so I think it'll be a much higher scoring game.
They might get to 50.
They might get to 50. But all 4 of those are tournament teams that are in the bubble or already in. So, shout out to the Mountain West for those matchups. And, I'm always excited about this time of year because never know what may happen, man. It's like a box of chocolates. That's a Forrest Gump reference if y'all didn't know, okay? Never know what you're going to get. Watch Forrest Gump. If you haven't watched Forrest Gump, you're missing out. All right. That's when you know it's time to go when I start talking about Forrest Gump. Anything else you got? And we're out.
Appreciate everyone tuning in as always. And yeah, it's unbelievable. Last week of February already. Who would have thought?
It's a stretch run. Well, we will see you next week with more excitement, more celebrations, and more Sweeney.